Hey everybody, my name is Craig Moody, co-owner of Verdis Group. I'm here with Dr. Khan. Just a quick introduction for Dr. Khan for those few of you that don't know him. He is the Dean of the College of Public Health at UNMC since 2014. And previously he was a director of the Office of Public Health Preparedness and Response at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Perhaps interestingly, and we have this book at home, he is the author of The Next Pandemic, which my wife read really quickly once we got it, and I'm in the middle of right now. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Khan. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Craig.
Very good. So we've just got a couple questions for you, Dr. Khan, as it relates to the pandemic and the future of sustainability. But before we do that, I'd really love to hear what's the most important thing that we as a community, as a society, need to know about the pandemic today?
I think the most important thing you need to know today is what can you do to protect yourself until your local, state, and national government protects you and your community. So what you can do to protect yourself is make sure that you and your household and friends and family are wearing a mask anytime you're out in public spaces. Please adhere to social distancing rules and hygiene. Make sure that you're washing those hands. There's tons of data that if we all did this collectively, we could drive down transmission in our community so that it's a little bit more manageable. And at some point, our elected leaders will decide to show the necessary leadership to decrease community transmission with test and trace, and the combination will allow us to get to zero like so many other countries all over the world.
Very good. Those models are there from those other countries, so hopefully we can get there sooner rather than later. Wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands is the keys that I heard. Thank you. That's great. Okay, so given your background, and I've heard you speak a few times, but for those of us that are kind of, those people that are kind of new to this topic, can you connect the dots for us between what we're experiencing today with respect to a pandemic and the climate crisis and climate change?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's start with what we're experiencing today. So what we're experiencing today in the United States is the lack of science-based, evidence-based data and information to drive a response to decrease community transmission of COVID-19. Now, we know that countries that used a science-based approach and good old public health tools were very successful in driving down cases, and many even have reached elimination worldwide. But that is not the approach we've seen here in the US. And what we've also seen is that this is now mired in politics. And so there's actually really good data that shows that certain individuals of certain political parties are more likely to wear masks versus not wear masks. And as far as the virus is concerned, it doesn't care about your ideology, right? It's still going to infect you and kill you, right? If you're the unfortunate person in a high-risk group. So the politicization of this response has prevented us from protecting, actively prevented us from protecting our community.
Sure.
Now, this politicization of the response and sort of this anti-science theme that we're seeing is not over the last couple of weeks, months, or years. It's been going on for a while now, and I can give you lots of good examples.
Sure.
The most common example is the anti-vaccination movement in the United States, right? Abundant evidence, unequivocal evidence that vaccine saves kids' lives, right? Unequivocal.
Right.
We've eradicated smallpox with a vaccine. But still we have people, who say no, vaccines cause no data whatsoever, nothing evidence-based that vaccines cause autism. The same thing's true as we think about environmental health regulations and policies that are now being promoted to strip what we consider science so that we can roll back environmental health regulations, which makes no sense if you think about it. How we have become such a great nation by protecting our environment, and to think that somehow we can roll back environmental regulations and that would lead to economic prosperity flies in the face of truth of what we've seen in the United States as we've tackled all sorts of things, acid rain, et cetera, over the decades in our communities. And this anti-science bent goes right back to climate change and the politicization of science, right? So we know we have climate change deniers who can look at a graph and see every year CO2 going up, you know, hottest records on years, you know, we're beaten month by month, the hottest record ever. And just, you know, so no recognition that this is the truth, which we know it's the truth, right? It's always these essentially pseudoscience reasons on why, no, it's not really that hot. It's the hottest it's ever been since the late 1800s. So I think these are all these examples of this anti-science theme that flows into as we think about climate change. And it goes into not just, so if you don't have the appropriate scientific basis, then you also are not taking the appropriate mitigation activities to keep this from happening, the appropriate prevention work that we need to do. That's also not happening. So it's unfortunate, and that sort of connects the dots.
Yep. So yeah, that's really great. So pivoting a little bit, one of the things that I'm mindful of is that, you know, mid-March for me, everything was upended, right? And I've been working from home since then, families here. You know, our society has shifted in really meaningful ways, and a lot of people talking about just getting back to normal. And it's my view that what we had pre-COVID in terms of the way our society was structured wasn't particularly great for everyone, and it was really damaging to the climate. So I guess I'm wondering, to what extent have we learned something in going through this pandemic that we can then apply to creating a next normal, a new normal that's more just, more sustainable, more resilient? What do you think we've learned that we can apply to the future?
So a couple of things. One is, like you, I'm hoping that this was a real disruption of our society that will lead to a better normal, because there's all sorts of things that I didn't like about the old normal, to be honest with you. You know, structural racism, yeah, not big on that, right? But let me stay within my lane, you know. Do I want to go back to an old normal where people don't have health insurance based on their salary or their job? Do I want to go back to an old normal where people can't take time off from work because there's no paid time off from work? So there's all sorts of things that needed to be fixed in that old normal. And I'm hoping this is the disruption to fix them in the new normal, where we realize it's important to give people healthcare insurance so that they can have access to quality healthcare, when we can address the inequities in healthcare that we know exist, when we can make sure that people can take a couple of days off from work and not be penalized, because this was a big issue as we thought about meatpacking and other facility outbreaks initially. So that's a big part of what we want to create as the new normal. But part of that new normal that's important for climate change is to really respect the science, use the evidence to think about what are our mitigation activities, what are prevention activities, what should we be doing. And I hope that's something we pull over from COVID to say, you know, ignoring a problem will not make it go away. We must address this problem. And like COVID, with climate change, we have solutions available to us. It's not just screaming, you know, it's horrible out there. We have real good solutions available to us that we should take advantage of.
Yeah, unquestionably. And I think that's a great place to leave it, because the reality is it's not opaque. We know what the solutions are. There's plenty of data. There's, you know, leaning on everything that you've just said, there's plenty of science and research and data around what we can and should be doing. It's time for action, in my view. And I think, you know, to your point, things have been disrupted, and it's time to create that new normal. So I really appreciate the time, Dr. Khan. As we're going to be sending you, for our first coffee tea chat, we're going to be sending you a bag of Artemis teas. So expect that in the mail very, very soon. If you're interested in Dr. Khan is one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter, so we'll go ahead and drop that just below in our video here. Dr. Khan, thank you very much. I've admired and appreciated all your work, and now more than ever, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the work you do with the university and across the community around sustainability issues. That's really appreciated. And people who you will never meet for generations to come will appreciate that work.
That's very nice of you to say, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.